We are just 2 weeks away from the start of the new financial year, and Uganda's budget for the financial year 2026-27 is finally out. In this edition of Business Roundup, we put the spotlight on the country's 84.4 trillion shilling spending plan, unpacking what it means for businesses, households, and the broader economy. I'm Dennis Igoa. Welcome, and let's get straight into it. Uganda unveils its 84.4 trillion shillings budget for the fiscal year 2026-2027. Analysts at an Absa Uganda post-budget dialogue criticize new tax measures. Policymakers defend the increase in fuel taxes as the country grapples with the effects of the ongoing Middle East conflict. And Parliament unanimously authorizes government borrowing to finance the rollout of solar-powered irrigation systems. Those are just some of the highlights. Stay with us as we dive deeper into the stories shaping Uganda's economy this week. On to our first story. The Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, this week unveiled Uganda's spending plan for the financial year 2026-2027. As has become tradition within the East African community, Uganda presented its budget on the same day as fellow member states, including Rwanda, Tanzania and Kenya. The 84.4 trillion budget outlines government spending priorities for the year ahead. In this report, Wadulo Mark highlights some of the key takeaways from the Minister Musasizi's budget speech. Let's have a look.
I dedicate this budget to all wealth creators, especially the youth, whose energy, enterprise and innovation will drive Uganda's transformation.
The core of government's tenfold strategy still rests on 4 priority sectors known as the ATMs. Agro-industrialization, which received its highest allocation ever at 2.2 trillion Uganda shillings to move Uganda from exporting raw commodities to value-added products. Tourism development was allocated 567.32 billion shillings to boost global visibility and infrastructure. Mineral-based industrial development, mining and oil was granted 473.51 billion shillings, with a focus on the start of the commercial oil production later this year. Science, technology and innovation was allocated 1.14 trillion to support innovations like the Chira vehicle plant and digital transformation.
The budget launches Uganda into the Chisanja no more sleep. Every Ugandan must actively engage in wealth creation, and every leader must be accountable for transforming households and communities.
Security and governance took the largest program share at 10.21 trillion shillings. Education received 6.6 trillion, notably including 568.65 billion shillings for primary school and arts teachers. Health was allocated 5.23 trillion shillings to increase essential medicines and complete specialized hospitals. The budget aims to achieve rapid structural transformation by investing heavily in wealth creation. Evidence of this goal is found in the 11 trillion shillings already invested in household initiatives like the parish development model, which has reached over 4 million beneficiaries. With the expected boost from oil, Musasizi projected a return to double-digit growth of 10.2%, signaling a major leap towards transforming Uganda into a $500 billion economy. Wadulo Arnold Mark for UBC.
As Uganda prepares to implement the 84.4 trillion shillings budget, consumers and businesses are bracing for a raft of new tax measures approved by Parliament. Let's have a look. The 84.4 trillion shillings national budget for the 2026-2027 financial year will take effect in less than 3 weeks. As implementation begins, Ugandans should expect changes in the prices of a number of goods and services following Parliament's approval of new excise duty measures aimed at increasing domestic revenue collections.
1. Increase in excise duty on diesel and petrol by Uganda shillings 200 per litre to generate Uganda shillings 450 billion in revenue.
Among the most notable changes is the increase in excess duty on petrol and diesel. The adjustment comes at a time when fuel prices have already been under pressure due to the ongoing geopolitical tensions and conflicts in the Middle East.
So as far as the fuel is concerned, is one of those items that definitely we would want to eventually to reduce the tax revenue. But for now, because of the taxable items being not so many, not so diverse, we again zero on it, but it's purely for revenue purposes, and hopefully it will not cause a lot of impact on the final consumer, as I've explained.
Other products expected to register marginal price increases include cooking oil, cooking fat, sugar and alcoholic beverages. Government has also increased excess duty on single-use plastics by 22.5% and raised the levy on cement from shillings 500 to 750 shillings per 50 kgs of cement purchased.
Alcohol, these are articles of ostentation. They are luxury goods, you know. You don't need alcohol to survive. Actually, you need alcohol to die. So when we put some money on a bottle of alcohol, especially those powerful genes which are going to have impact on your health, we are also telling you, please reduce.
The first registration fee for motorcycles has also been revised upwards from 200,000 shillings to 500,000 shillings, a measure expected to generate approximately 25 billion shillings in the next financial year.
2. Motorcycles at first registration from Uganda shillings 200,000 to Uganda shillings 500,000 to generate 26 billion.
Does it apply for both, for the diesel-powered motorbike and the electric-powered motorbike?
No. Electric vehicles and electric motorcycles and so on, they are largely exempt from a lot of taxes. So these are for the dirty ones because they are environmental also biased.
Meanwhile, Parliament has approved an increase in tax on betting activities from 20% to 30%. in a move aimed at harmonizing taxation across the gaming sector. This measure is projected to generate an additional 24 billion shillings in revenue. The budget for the financial year 2026-2027 has been read, the promises have been made, but what it means is the efficient execution of the budget. Dennis Igoa for UBC. Relatedly, there is no option but to collect taxes amid the global conflict brought about by the Middle East conflict. This is according to the members of parliament who passed the budget to increase excess duty on fuel and other key household commodities.
Approximately 3.5 months, the major war involving Iran, Israel and USA has prompted a surge in fuel prices across the globe. In most fuel pumps and stations in Uganda, the prices clocked to 7,000 shillings per litre. Most Ugandans, especially the small-scale and medium enterprises, have continued to feel the pinch resulting from the high prices of fuel and other commodities. Parliament in May 2026 passed the Excise Duty Amendment Tax 2026, increasing the tax on fuel by 200 shillings. The House was cognizant that the global pressure caused by the war in Iran, Israel and USA could neutralize soon. The Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, while presenting the budget speech, says the government eyes extra 450 billion shillings revenue from the tax on petrol and diesel. Despite the little knowledge on when the global conflict would end, the members of parliament have no option but to allow the tax on fuel to be implemented.
And you see, it's our obligation as citizens to pay taxes so that the money which is raised through taxation can be invested into services. So you have to weigh. If you say don't pay taxes, then where shall we get the money to buy drugs, to run the health sector, to provide for education, provide for roads and so forth and so forth?
I want to thank Parliament that passed the bill and thank the President and the Cabinet that they were able to put in place measures to have fuel, enough fuel stocked. Some of our neighboring countries actually don't have even fuel. But for us, we have been able to access fuel at a cost, but at least you access fuel. So our appeal is to make sure that the price, the global prices settle down because of these conflicts so that it can normalize.
The Minister for Internal Affairs, Ephraim Kamuntu, implores Uganda to consider building a capacity to adjust in the situations like the global wars.
A war in Iran affects Ugandans even when we have no role we have played in this conflict. So what option does Uganda have? Uganda's survival depends on adjustment, whether Uganda can build a capacity to adjust to all these external variables of which he has no control. That's the answer. You have to develop the capacity to adjust to environmental impact of which you have no control and to navigate and survive.
For all this to work, for the economy of this country to work, systems must be applied. What I ask for is that the technical team that is in charge of this budget, let the budget do exactly what it is intending to do. The issue is that they have put money on the road. If it doesn't go to the road, or if they say the part of the money is for me, the technical part, and you find that the little money, the corruption part of it, that is where systems fall apart.
The legislators urge the general public to develop the mindset of work to be able to thrive through such hard times as government implements the taxes.
People do not want to hear about the tax that has come up because it has to come up. What we need to do is the mindset that people need to understand, where do I gain for me to pay this tax? Where do I invest for me to pay this tax? Because as long as we live, tax has to be paid.
These are the global markets, these are world challenges, these are world threats. That's why I was saying that I'm happy with our budget because it is catering for security sector as number one. These are effects of insecurity.
The leader of opposition in Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, wants the government to cut on its appetite for expenditure to deliver efficient services.
Over 10 trillion shillings of money that is meant to avail services to the people of Uganda is stolen. How many people are apprehended for that corruption? So they are not serious about it.
Daniel Mugoya.
Still on budget matters, government has pledged to enforce fiscal discipline in the implementation of the newly approved budget. Speaking during a post-budget dialogue that brought together business leaders and policy makers, the Permanent Secretary at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Ramadan Gobi, outlined government strategy for prudent budget execution and accelerated economic growth. Let's have a look. The post-budget dialogue hosted by Absa Bank Uganda under the theme Harnessing Opportunities, Navigating Economic Realities was held just hours after government unveiled its 84.4 trillion shillings national budget for the 2026-2027 financial year. The high-level meeting in Kampala brought together government officials and private sector leaders to unpack the new tax measures and explore opportunities arising from the government's ambitious 10-fold economic growth strategy, a plan aimed at transforming Uganda into a $500 billion economy.
But as far as I am concerned, the whole issue of domestic revenue mobilization has been about deepening rather than widening.
What has been taken, if you look at the tax measures, where we are increasing taxes on cooking oil, on sugar, on fuel, these particular taxes disproportionately affect the poorer households, because the poor households, a large part of their income is actually spent on these items.
Bankers welcome the fiscal consolidation measures, particularly the reduction in domestic borrowing from 11.4 trillion shillings to 9 trillion. They say this will ease pressure on the domestic credit market and improve access to affordable financing for businesses.
The success of a budget is measured by the allocation and the implementation into how we develop our infrastructure, how we pay our suppliers, and making our businesses competitive. We need to assess how does this economic growth translate into jobs for our people. How do we support entrepreneurs and SMEs to fully capture the emerging opportunities?
As government targets double-digit economic growth through increased monetization of the economy, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Dr. Ramadan Gobi, reaffirmed commitment to tighter accountability, rationalized public spending, procurement reforms, enforcement of trade order, and improved management of state-owned enterprises.
I think you should agree this is a good budget. It's a good big budget. With so many opportunities you are harnessing. The revenue is growing, and that is good. Of course, with some pinch on us, some of the sources of revenue are not very popular, but inevitable.
Dr. Gobi also revealed a major boost in funding for domestic arrears clearance from just 20 billion shillings to 1.4 trillion, a move expected to inject significant liquidity into the economy and spur private sector growth.
But what do they say? The proof of the pudding is in the testing. Okay? You know your mother's cooking is good when you go outside and test other people's cooking. So in this case, we'll wait to see what happens, but internal fiscal discipline is going to be quite critical.
Dennis Igor and Marcin Wasasira for UBC. Meanwhile, Parliament this week unanimously authorized government to borrow funds for the development of solar-powered irrigation systems project phase 2. The funds, to the tune of over 168 million euros, will be secured from the UK Export Finance and Citibank. Priority has been placed in coffee commodity as climate change continues to threaten better harvests. Let's have a look.
The situation that we are faced with, we don't have the committees. That is a reality of fact. And this loan is as important as water itself.
Government has tabled what it described as an urgent loan request seeking authorization of Parliament. This was amid a situation that Parliament is still in its initial stages of constituting the relevant committees to carry out business.
Rule 162 requires us to take much of these matters to the committee that is not available. Right, Honourable Speaker, it's not sufficient to just tell us that we don't have committees, yet the people who are supposed to formulate the committees are available.
The Speaker, Jacob Oboth, told the MPs of a window through the rules of the House to deliberate on the loan without the committee stages.
I will invoke Rule 8.1 of the Rules of Procedure of this House and have this particular request directly considered by the House. However, we are faced with the reality that that was not envisaged by the framers of these rules.
The intended loan involves a request of euros 168,976,354 from the UK Export Finance and Citibank for the development of solar-powered irrigation system project phase 2. The Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, presented the loan request, informing the MPs of how the first phase of the project progressed, securing 434 systems across the country. The effects of climate change have been attributed as the major concerns, calling for irrigation systems to aid farmers. Most available water sources are decreasing, making farmers to count losses due to prolonged dry seasons.
We can do a lot of filibustering with the rules, but the farmers want an answer. The answer is stability of their farming, and stability does not lie in anything else. We've given the money through PDM. Money alone will not support soil health. We must put water in the soil, and you do so through irrigation.
The priority has been earmarked to benefit coffee farming, having proved to be a vital commodity, feeding over 1.8 million Ugandans who directly depend on it.
The irrigable land area to be served will range from 10 to 20 acres. Number 3, the farmer should have a coffee plantation that is at least 1 year old. Number 4, the site can be individual or communal, with consideration for commercial coffee villages for big systems.
The MPs supported the request, presenting areas of improvement in the implementation of loans.
Even again, when government is actually helping a farmer for irrigation, be concerned for all sectors, for all the value chain. As you are giving water for a farmer, supply the fertilizer. Giving water alone will not yield. After giving fertilizer and the irrigation, mind about the market.
Of course, now as Parliament, previously we were not doing our work as Parliament, but the Speaker promised us that the committees are going to work, and therefore want to believe that Parliament, through its mandate of oversight, we should now look at oversighting such critical projects so that we can spur economic growth and development in this country.
As the financial year 2025-2026 comes to an end in June 30th, the total public debt has since grown to 126 trillion. Government has made various commitments that the public debt is manageable, drawing optimism in the anticipated oil revenue. Daniel Mugoya.
In our BRU feature tonight, we take a look at some of the major achievements and highlights of the tenure of the former Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabirwa. When Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu assumed office as the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development in 2021, Uganda stood at a defining moment. The nation possessed immense energy, petroleum and mineral resources, but unlocking their full potential required vision, leadership, policy reforms and decisive implementation. 5 years later, Uganda's energy and extractives landscape has been transformed. During her tenure, landmark reforms were undertaken, including the enactment of the Energy Policy 2023, implementation of the Mining and Minerals Act 2022.
Prosperity for all. We want to see the mineral endowment translated into that. Otherwise, we will not be worth existing. I am happy that we are going to see exports grow and that we shall reduce the import bill.
Strengthening of the Electricity Act, operationalization of the National Petroleum Policy 2025 and the enactment of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act 2026.
Let me also remind people that extractive industry is destructive and therefore takes time to achieve the results.
These reforms established a modern regulatory environment that promotes investment transparency, sustainability, local content and value addition. Sector experts, legislators and development partners say these reforms have positioned Uganda as one of Africa's most attractive destinations for energy and extractive sector investment. Under Dr. Canon Ruth Nankabirwa's leadership, installed generation capacity increased to approximately 1,451 megawatts to over 2,098 megawatts.
So as we walk the journey of value addition, we have also been walking the journey of distribution and supply of reliable electricity.
The commissioning of the 600 megawatts Karuma hydropower plant stands out as a historic milestone, representing Uganda's largest power generation facility. Transmission infrastructure expanded by nearly 875 kilometers, strengthening regional interconnections and enabling electricity trade with neighboring countries through the East African Power Pool. The Mining and Minerals Act 2022 modernized governance and investment in this sector, Revenue from minerals increased significantly, while geological surveys identified new deposits of iron ore, rare earth elements, copper, gold, uranium, and geothermal resources. Major milestones included commissioning of Uganda's first tin smelter in Mbarara, establishment and growth of gold refining capacity, producing 99.99% pure gold.
This is just for you to witness. Anybody who would like to touch a kilo of.
Operationalization of the Uganda National Mining Company, redevelopment of Kilembe copper mines, formalization of thousands of artisanal miners, and expansion of mineral beneficiation and value addition initiatives. Through strategic leadership and international engagement, the country advanced the Tilenga, Kingfisher, and East African Crude Oil Pipeline (EACOP) projects despite global economic uncertainties and external pressures.
I salute and congratulate the Total Energy and Sinuk for finally reaching final investment decision, because I was getting a bit impatient.
In her 5-year term of office, Nankabirwa has represented Uganda at regional and global forums, including the East African Power Pool, African Energy Conferences, International Solar Alliance engagements, petroleum investment forums, climate and energy transition dialogues, and bilateral cooperation meetings, among others. From expanding electricity access and commissioning transformational infrastructure to advancing Uganda's petroleum industry, promoting mineral value addition, strengthening institutions, and preparing the nation for a nuclear future, Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa's tenure has been defined by one enduring objective: transforming Uganda's natural resources into engines of national development. The projects continue. The vision remains, but the foundations laid between 2021 and 2026 will shape Uganda's energy future for generations to come.
On forging the future, as I wind up, as we focus on fulfilling the promise for First Oil, we must also look beyond it. First Oil is not the destination, it is the beginning.
Powering growth, creating opportunity, transforming Uganda, the legacy continues.
Thank you so much for your moral, emotional, technical expertise.
Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. Every milestone deserves a celebration. Congratulations. God bless you.
The FIFA World Cup is finally here, bringing together millions of fans across the globe in celebration of the beautiful game. As you cheer on your favorite team, remember to do so responsibly. Wherever you choose to watch from, ensure that you are in a safe environment and make choices that keep both of you and those around you safe. I've been your host, Dennis Igora. Until next weekend, have a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.